It seems that people will do anything for attention. It feels like it's human instinct to crave validation from others. It's only natural. But some people could take it too far. American culture is propped up by personalities. Being the entertainment capital of the world naturally leads to a large number of celebrities, both big and small. And the prospect of becoming one is alluring to many. But there's an inherent danger to becoming famous. As one accrues more fans, there will almost certainly be some who will be too attached. It's not unusual. In fact, it's basically expected for obsessive fans to be the bane of a celebrity's existence. From stalking to even death threats, these fans will do anything to get acknowledged by their idols. What goes on in their heads? What do they hope to accomplish? Well, for a case study, who better to examine than the king of comedy? Why do I keep doing this? The King of Comedy is a 1982 film directed by Martin Scorsese. Considered one of the best directors of all time, Scorsese needs no introduction. By the time he made this film, he had already directed Taxi Driver and Raging Bull, both classics that are still discussed today. However, it came as a surprise to some that directly after Raging Bull, a nuanced character study of a boxer so filled with rage that he destroyed his relationships, he would go on to direct a comedy. In fact, after that film, Scorsese considered retiring from narrative films, instead opting to make documentaries. However, there was one project that he still wanted to do, of course that being The Last Temptation of Christ. Since his childhood, Scorsese has always wanted to make a film about the life of Jesus. But as you can see, the film wouldn't come out until 1988, and there were 3 films in between. So instead of The Last Temptation of Christ, the follow-up to Raging Bull would become The King of Comedy.
I'm gonna love you.
The film stars Robert De Niro as Rupert Pupkin, a wannabe stand-up comedian whose name is the funniest thing about him.
Mr. Pupkin.
De Niro was actually going to play Jesus, but he preferred his next collaboration with Scorsese to be a comedy. And despite this character being so radically different from De Niro's usual roles, he still plays the part excellently. In order to prepare for the role, De Niro actually stalked his stalkers, which was a real power move on his part. Rupert craves a jump start to his career, and he sees a golden opportunity with one of his idols, Jerry Langford, played by Jerry Lewis. Langford is a successful stand-up comedian and talk show host. However, he is constantly bombarded and harassed by his so-called fans.
You should only get cancer. I hope you get cancer.
While he has a very charismatic and friendly on-screen persona, off-screen you can see that he is really tired of all the shit that he has to deal with. If there is one thing that the film really hones in on, is the mocking of the celebrity worship that is prevalent in American culture. Parasocial relationships is a term that gets thrown around a lot recently, but it was a thing for a long time. A great number of television hosts and personalities at the time would frequently refer to their audiences as their friends, or even family. In fact, Walt Disney was so beloved that he would often be called Uncle Walt. People will naturally gravitate towards charismatic personalities and make them a part of their daily lives. However, this relationship only goes one way. These celebrities do not personally know their fans, but some fans will not acknowledge this, which leads to a sense of entitlement that could even be seen in the film.
Get cancer.
In some ways, the film is prophetic. The rise of online influencers has only made matters worse in recent times, but at the same time, it was only commenting on a very real problem at the time, a problem that can lead to serious consequences. A running gag throughout the film is the showcase of all the absurd safety precautions that Jerry and his staff have to perform, due to the sheer amount of obsessive fans he has, one of which is Sandra Bernhard's character, Masha, who is possibly even more unhinged than Rupert, as unlikely as that sounds. Anyways, Rupert found a way to talk to Jerry in his limousine. Tired from his show, Jerry decides to hear him out for a bit, give him some advice, and that's the end of that.
You don't say, folks, here's the punchline, you just do the punchline.
Except it wasn't the end for Rupert. He genuinely believes that he made a meaningful connection with Jerry, and with this connection, he is on the fast lane towards success. Of course, the main point of interest here is Rupert himself. Just who exactly is Rupert Pupkin? As I said before, he is a wannabe comedian with delusions of grandeur. Every once in a while, the film shows us his fantasies. He believes that he is a comedic genius, and once he gets his place in the spotlight, everyone will love him.
We were wrong. And you, Rupert, you were right.
These delusions are harshly contrasted with the reality that Rupert lives in. He is a loser that lives with his mom.
Rupert, who are you talking to?
Mom!
What is it?
Please stop calling me.
Almost every interaction that he has with someone is pathetic and embarrassing. However, he doesn't see this. He always acts like he's above everyone, that he's a celebrity who just needs to be discovered. This is evident when he shows off his book of celebrity signatures to Rita, a bartender that Rupert has taken a liking to. Among the likes of Marilyn Monroe and Burt Reynolds is Rupert's own signature.
That's Rupert Pupkin.
Which he kindly gives to Rita, in case it becomes valuable someday. Also worth mentioning is that he considers Woody Allen a personal friend.
Woody Allen. He's a very nice guy. He's a personal friend of mine.
Of course he is.
Which explains a lot. Therefore, when Jerry decides to humor Rupert, he has unwittingly given Rupert the green light to try and get on a show, and there is nothing that will stop Rupert Pupkin from getting on that show. He starts off the conventional way, going to his office to talk to him, but no matter how much he claims to know Jerry, he can never quite get past the receptionist and the security guards.
Hold on.
So he can't get through in his office. What would be the next course of action? Well, coming to his house uninvited, of course. Under the false pretense that Jerry invited him, Rita comes along as a date. They mess around in his country home, distressing the servants in the process. But once Jerry comes home, Rita catches on. Rupert keeps brushing off Jerry's pleas to leave, until they have a full-on argument.
Jerry can't...
You understand English? Take your things and go.
All right, I can take a hint, Jerry.
This is the most uncomfortably hilarious scene in the movie. Langford saying,
So I made a mistake.
So did Hitler.
catches me off guard every time. All the while, a humiliated Rita is desperately trying to get Rupert to leave, and he eventually does leave.
And you want to know something else? I'm going to work 50 times harder, and I'm going to be 50 times more famous than you.
And he will make good on that promise, because this event motivates Rupert to do his most reckless stunt yet. With the help of Masha, Rupert hatches a plan to kidnap Jerry and hold him for ransom, a logical step up from his previous schemes. His request is simple. He wants the opening spot of that evening's episode of The Langford Show. Of course, like everything else Rupert does, his ransom is very messy and embarrassing,
Cards upside down.
but it still gets the job done. The network is finally paying attention to Rupert, though not through ideal circumstances. Meanwhile, we are treated to some very uncomfortable scenes of Masha trying to seduce Jerry, who is duct taped to a chair. Anyways, Rupert showcases the lengths that people will go to get attention. It can be really difficult to get recognized for your work. It can take years of dedication and hard work to make something that will catch on, and some people will never achieve fame in their lifetime, no matter how much effort they put in.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
But all this can be skipped if you just force yourself into the limelight. Rupert has finally gotten his act to air on national television. Let's see if it was worth everything he did. It doesn't show the act as it happens, keeping us in anticipation as the police take him to prison. But before that happens, Rupert needs to make a quick stop. He needs to show Rita he made it. He's finally on television. So when he turns on the TV at the bar, we see his act in full. Despite how pathetic Rupert is, you can't help but sympathize with him. There is certainly an undercut of sadness beneath his bombastic exterior, and with this stand-up act, we see truly how broken Rupert is.
They did also return me to the hospital as defective.
Under the guise of jokes, Rupert lays out all of his past trauma, his shitty childhood, his neglectful parents, his bullies at school. He even jokes about how his mom is dead.
If she were only here today, I'd say, hey, Mom, what are you doing here? You've been dead for 9 years.
Making us question whether he made it up for the show, or if the mother we hear throughout the movie is part of Rupert's delusions. This is the point where I see Rupert's motivation, why he did all this. All his life, he's been ignored, bullied, and beaten. For once, just once, he wants to be recognized for the genius he is, to prove everyone wrong, to prove that he's worth something, to a world that told him he was worthless.
Better to be king for a night than schmuck for a lifetime.
In a way, I can see myself in Rupert. Of course, I would never do something as extreme as him, but I understand what his thought process is. It's human instinct to crave validation from others, and when you are deprived of it throughout your entire life, it can feel awful, and it can cause you to look anywhere for motivation, even if it's as simple as a television program. We all have people we look up to, people we strive to become, and seeing their success can be a powerful motivator. But it's unhealthy to fixate on these people to a fanatic degree. At the end of the day, they are humans like you and I. But that's easy to forget when we are constantly shown an idealized version of them. What the TV doesn't show is their struggles, their flaws, everything that it took to get them where they are now. This curated image of a person can easily lead to fans growing attached to a person that doesn't completely exist, and this attachment can easily lead to disaster. Rupert Pupkin is not just a funny character from an 80s comedy, but he is also a very real type of person that has always existed, and he will continue to exist for the rest of humankind. The film ends with a montage showcasing what happened to Rupert after getting arrested. While serving 2 years of a 6-year sentence, Rupert has written an autobiography, and it is flying off the shelves. It turns out that kidnapping Jerry and hijacking his show has propelled Rupert into stardom. A film adaptation of his book is even in the works. His stunt really did pay off. Or did it? This could just as easily be another one of Rupert's delusions. At the very end, Rupert is about to star in a comedy special, with an announcer introducing him. However, the announcer keeps repeating the phrase,
Rupert Pupkin, ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Rupert Pupkin. Wonderful. Rupert Pupkin, ladies and gentlemen. Rupert Pupkin, ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Rupert Pupkin. Wonderful. Rupert Pupkin, ladies and gentlemen.
It's almost as if it's trying to find the perfect way to say that phrase, but the ending is left ambiguous. Much like the rest of the movie, we question what is real and what isn't. With a sharp wit and satirical edge, The King of Comedy is a great character study of a man who would go to great lengths to make it big. Along the way, it criticizes our celebrity culture and the relationship between the entertainer and their fans, and it is just as relevant today as it was back in the 80s. It truly is a one-of-a-kind film. It also got remade into some comic book flick.